But first, I just want to discuss briefly what mental illness is, because I find that it's something people get confused about a lot. It's certainly a point of confusion, and I just want everyone to have the same understanding before we move forward, and I want to share my thoughts on what I think mental illness is. Technically speaking, if you look it up, it'll be defined very simply, actually. It's not a scary concept at all. It's simply defined as the disruption of a person's feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And this disruption interferes with one's ability to cope with the stress of life. So disruptions of feelings, thoughts, and emotions. Caused by a biochemical change in the brain. I like to say biochemical change rather than imbalance, just because I don't like, when we're discussing these things, I don't like to use words that sometimes give off a negative connotation. Because when you do that, sometimes people take it personally, and then it hinders them from getting the help that they deserve and have the right to get. So it's caused, yes, by a biochemical change in the brain, an imbalance, so to speak, of neurotransmitters, little tiny protein particles called neurotransmitters that control neural activity throughout the body. Truthfully, I don't like the term mental illness. I don't like saying that someone is mentally ill, or saying that someone has a mental illness, because we all deal with disruptions of our feelings, thoughts, and emotions from time to time that hinder our ability to cope with the stress of life. And if mental illness is the disruption of feelings, thoughts, and emotions, well then, based on that kind of reasoning, we're all a little mentally ill from time to time. We all deal with bouts of mental illness. And then, the way I see it is, the aspect of illness is actually a pretty common part of our human experience. Something unexpected throws us off course, or we meet challenges that are stressful, or we face tragedy, or we grieve loss, or we just deal with the daily, day-to-day wear and tear of life. Regardless, these are things that, as people, we all have to deal with from time to time, and inevitably, they're going to disrupt the way we ideally like to feel. So I don't like to talk about coping with mental illness. And I do understand that the term mental illness does have some practical and clinical applications, but when I'm talking about it here, and I may say mental illness a couple times, sometimes I'll try to do it with the little quote marks to kind of, just point attention at the word. But I like to talk about coping with mental health, because I feel that if we talk about coping with mental health, everyone can relate to mental health. We all have mental health. And we can talk about our mental health without feeling the anxiety of worrying about being ill. So I like to think that we can cope with our mental health and maintain our mental health and deal with our common mental illness by adhering to and maintaining positive mental hygiene, which for me is the daily monitoring of our feelings, thoughts, and emotions.